Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. It's been a little while.
It's
A
been a
few,
minute.
yeah, a few
Uh,
things kind of got in the way, life and all that stuff. But it's good to see
yeah,
you.
good to see you too. How have you been?
Great, yeah. It's just been nonstop. But I'm gonna say good and bad, but no, mostly good or neutral, but
Good,
lots of
good.
things. So first of all, I like the before to say anything else, I love the little blue audio meter before you when you're in the waiting room.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
yeah,
I like
nice.
it.
Cool.
Nice one. So yeah, you got some new features,
Yep, yep, yep.
as indicated
And
by
also,
that.
it also shows if I turn off my camera, you'll see my audio
Ah, nice.
as I speak.
Oh,
So,
cool. That's
yeah.
really nice.
So that way, because some people prefer to not use
Yeah,
video, so they want to just hear each other. So this allows them to turn off the camera, but still kind of
yeah.
have some kind of visual.
You're there.
Uh,
They're not completely offline. It's they're there.
right.
They're conscious, and also it helps who's speaking as well. If there's more than one other person in the room, right?
Exactly. So that's the idea behind it. So,
Nice.
seems to be working fine.
Very
Yeah, got a pretty good reaction and comments about it. So
cool.
it's looking good.
Yeah.
Before we keep going,
Hmm.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year! Yeah, wow. It's happy. Yeah, happy everything. All the stuff that's
I,
happened since last fall.
Merry Christmas and
Merry
Happy New
Christmas,
Year.
Happy New Year. I still can't get into the whole 2022 thing. It just
Right?
seems. I know I didn't get used to 2020. Never mind 2021.
Yeah.
2022 just seems like no, that can't be right. When I've written it, it's like no, there's no way that can be real.
It
But
feels strange, right?
super strange. Yeah, very weird. I've
So,
only written it like it by hand maybe twice, and both times I'm like, no, that really can't be right. But anyway,
I know I've stopped myself. I've questioned myself a couple of times where, wait, is it 2022? Is it 21 or 22?
yep. It's like no, it can't be. I mean, I question myself most of the time, but that especially strongly.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
how were your holidays?
good. Yeah, it's kind of weird over here, right? Because so Christmas is, I don't want to say it's a non-event, but it's not really a thing. Christmas Eve, couples go out for a meal. Maybe if you do presents, maybe Christmas Day. But the big thing here is KFC on Christmas lunch. That's the event. Yeah,
Wow.
seriously. So for whatever reason, I guess X number of years ago, I think it's about 15, 20 years ago or so, before my time, KFC saw an opportunity to do the same thing that like Halloween and Easter have done, and spread an American event, what has become an American commercial event, to a place that doesn't have it. And so they introduced this concept of having KFC Christmas lunch. And now you basically have to reserve your box about a month or so in advance. You get a time slot on Christmas morning when you go and pick up your KFC. And there's, for almost 2 months leading up to Christmas, KFC are like, I mean, KFC are really strong advertising here. Like, you on a general day, you'll see, on TV there'll be like 3 or 4 KFC adverts.
Wow.
And they just bombarding with this whole Christmas thing, special Christmas box and all. Yeah, it's funny. Like, Christmas is basically couples going out for a fancy meal on Christmas Eve and KFC for lunch. That's it.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah,
So the Colonel is
always
alive and well
strong
in
over here.
Japan.
It really is. Yeah, it's kind of weird at first. You're like, what? I didn't really think that was a big deal, but yeah, they've done really, really well at marketing here. So,
Wow. Cool, cool.
but
So
apart
did you
from that,
have
yeah, it was good.
did you have your
We
KFC
didn't.
on
I think we did maybe the second, our first or second year here, because both me and my son were like, we want to do this. And my wife's
Yeah.
like, oh God, fine, all right, whatever. But we were like, yeah, we wanted it. And then we're like, okay, we did it. That's fine.
And done with
So
that.
what we did do was, between Christmas and we went to Hot Spring Resort, I guess is the word,
Nice.
but it's an old traditional Japanese like inn in the mountains down south a bit from this island, and we just stayed overnight there. So it's you basically they have 6 or 7 of these private baths, which are hot spring fed baths, and they're
Cool.
outside, or equivalent of outside, as in there's a roof but there's no walls. So
Right.
yeah, you basically rent that for an hour and you get fancy meal, which is, I think it was it's like 10 courses or so. If you look at my Twitter, you'll see I posted
Wow.
each of the courses. I mean, they're very traditional Japanese, local, seasonal food. So there'll be sashimi, there'll be various other bits and things that you're like, don't know what this is, but it's tasty. So yeah, that was nice. It was good to just go driving in the mountains and say
Nice.
that there was snow and it was cute. You sat in a hot spring and it's literally freezing outside, but you're in like
Oh.
the bath and you're like, I'm good. And then you're like, you overheat in the bath and you're like, okay, step outside for a moment. Okay, back in. So you spend
Yeah.
like 40 minutes going in and out of the bath, just trying to regulate your temperature, but it's very pleasant. Yeah.
Nice,
That was
nice. No,
nice.
that's awesome.
That was our
That's the
little.
best when it's cold
Oh
and
yeah,
you're in
seriously.
a
Yeah, you're like,
hot spring.
I mean, you put your foot in, you're like, too hot, and then you're like, try to, like kind of coax yourself into staying in there. But it's lovely. It was very nice.
That's
That
very
was the
cool.
highlight of our Christmas and New Year, really.
Nice, nice.
What about yourself?
Yeah, it was nice. We didn't do much. We kept it very low key. We just I mean, with COVID and all, it's just
Yeah. What do you do?
better to stay home and just keep it low key. So we for Christmas we were home, and for New Year's 2 friends came over, a
Oh, nice,
couple of friends, and it was just the four of us, and we just received the New Year here and
nice.
had some champagne, and but we kept it really mellow. Had dinner, played some board games, and
Cool.
and
I got board games out with I got my son like a couple of board games for Christmas, and yeah, so we spent pretty much New Year him beating me in those. He's quite good at them, so that was good. Yeah,
yeah.
well, I mean, that was a nice thing about this hot spring night. There's a few other people. You didn't actually see any other people. There were other people staying in the
Mm.
inn, but yeah, we didn't see them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice.
And I'm assuming a lot of it is, it's pretty much outdoors most of the
Oh
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're
yeah,
like
exactly.
spending a lot of time
Yeah,
outdoors, and
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's really cool. My wife and myself too, we love that kind of stuff, and we've gone to a couple of places around here that have hot springs, and yeah, it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely check out my tweets around New Yearish, and
Oh,
you'll
okay.
see it's very pretty.
I'll go back. I'll go back to that time. Yeah.
If I remember, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay, right on.
Yeah,
Cool.
cool. Yeah. So, well, I guess my other big worky news is I guess I launched at some point in the past few months.
Ooh,
It's official.
nice,
You can go and you can pay and you can sign up and all that
nice.
kind of good stuff. So yeah,
That's awesome.
that was. I think it's worth stating. It's
Oh yeah, of
celebrating.
course, of course. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
huge news.
it was a I can't remember. Oh, I remember what the event was. So the other thing was I did a pitch like a pitch competition, actual people 5 minute pitch in person event,
Okay.
and so I kind of I think before that I'd stated as a maybe internal, or I think I definitely told other people, which meant I had to do it. Was I was officially launching at the beginning of November, and so it was like, well, actually, I guess I'm officially launched. Then I turned on subscriptions, and there you go, you can pay. And so I set all of my trial users to like extend their trial till around about now. I think it's the beginning of February or something like that. Because I'm
Hmm.
like, you've been good. You get some time, but
Yeah.
then all new accounts are like, I think it's 2 weeks trial, of which there's been a few signups. And well, the other big news is I have a paying customer, which is
Nice.
very exciting. So yeah,
Awesome.
again, I think worth celebrating a little bit.
Of
And the
course.
nice thing was that also they asked me if it was okay if they wrote a testimonial for me. I'm like, yeah, please
Yeah,
do.
of course.
So they seem really happy with it. In talking to them, they said the communication, because they're not officially a remote company, but it's not an IT company, but they tend to work not necessarily all in the office. They go out and do things for clients and things. And he said they're just generally not very good at talking to each other
Okay.
generally. And so actually, I guess this we talk about this now while it's in line with the topic. So one
Sure.
change which I kind of made to the product, and this was, I think I mentioned it before, that I added time tracking as
Yes.
in a start and stop timer.
Hmm.
It partially, I was partially against it at first because I'm like, no, I don't want to turn it into a time tracker, but kind of kept coming back that, well, actually we need this, and we're now using 2 products, and it would be just easier if we used one, so we could do time tracking, but with a social intra-office aspect to it.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, I get that. I mean, again, it wasn't necessarily my intention. I'm not a very time tracky kind of person.
Yeah,
I do it
and I
for
remember you were struggling with that idea, kind of like, should I do this? Should I not?
I
Yeah.
think it's partially because of how I work, and I think that's just, I guess I'm coming to terms my brain isn't necessarily the same as everybody else's with regarding tracking time, but it's especially with when they're working for clients, and when I've worked for clients in the past, it's like, well, no, you have to be on and off. And so I chewed it around quite a lot. I added just basic start and stop times, and you could export the times into CSV and Excel and things. But then they were like, oh, that's nice, but then we start the timer and then we go and we do a check-in. Like, can we just merge that? And so I, again, rattled around my head for a while. And I'm like, all right, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'll buy into this. It's either, half-hearted or it's all in, right? I want to do it properly.
Right.
So after chewing around quite a lot, I came with this. All right, so you can the normal check-in stuff works fine. If you want to, you can actually turn off as an organization. You can turn off time tracking. It's just a flag. But if you have it on, when you start the timer, it does a modal pop-up with a mini version of, and you can do everything that you can. Well, you don't have the future thing, but you can do everything on the normal check-in page within the modal. You can just close it if you don't want to, or you can actually just do a check-in from there. That links it to the timer, so I can display effectively like a package of your start and stop for the day linked to your check-in, and it's just completely in line with you. Anywhere on the app, you can just say start timer or stop timer, pops up the check-in. No, I don't want to, or just did these things, save. And it's great. Even for me, just having that, I'm going to work on this. It's kind of like a Pomodoro, but without the timer aspect.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
You say, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to do these things. Check in. Go away, do your things. Oh, at the end of the day, I should stop the timer. Stop. Oh, yeah, tick those off. Check in. And it's like, this is great.
It sounds like a perfect workflow right there.
Right. It's actually a much better workflow for planning than the normal DotPlan workflow, right? So, yeah. So I've done a few enhancements to it now. It's actually becoming a slightly better version of the normal check-in page anyway, but kind of backporting those improvements to the other one. It also does it so you can start a general timer, or you can start it for a given project. So you can say, I'm going to work on this project, and it automatically tags the check-in with the project that you're working on as well. So then that's filterable and all these things. So again, it's kind of actually makes it a nicer flow than just going and doing a check-in. It's a bit more manual, right? So yeah, I'm like, okay, this worked out. I mean, again, I put it off for months, and it's easy in hindsight to say, I should have just realized this, but it took a lot of sketching, doodling, like going back and forth, like internally, like, no, I don't want to do this, and actually maybe there's something in it, and it took that time to realize how it should work, and then the result, it actually works out really well. And the client that's paying, my customer, they're like, this is how they use it. They don't do any other check-ins. They use it primarily for this, and because they were doing time-based check-ins anyway, now they have time check-ins with a social interaction. People are responding to them. People are leaving comments on it, and it's like they've achieved this flow, which was my goal for DotPlan, but they've done it because they're doing time-based check-ins anyway.
Check-ins.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, this is kind of a mini revelation, right? So I'm just rolling with that and seeing where that goes now. But what I am doing is now trying to do a complete redesign of the landing page, just to incorporate everything that I know the product is now versus what I thought it was going to be when I started building it. So that's where I am with that.
All right. Wow. Yeah. So much has happened since we met last time.
And the pitch was great. I really enjoyed that. It's the first, I think, I did like the 99-second online pitch. I've talked to loads of people about it, but to do a 5-minute timed, was it 5 minutes? Yeah, I think it was timed, like stand up, go, these are my
presentation.
slides, talk to people.
Mhm.
That was really, really fun, and it's just gives you that good buzz, right? Seeing some people respond. It was to a Japanese audience, so I pitched in English, but I had Japanese, like my slides had Japanese text on them as well, so I had English and
I
Japanese.
see.
So even if they couldn't understand me, they could follow along what I'm saying. It's pretty obvious, and I could see as soon as I started speaking, I was kind of, all right, those are following me, those people aren't. So I knew who to direct my attention to when I was pitching. And yeah, I got some interesting questions and stuff. So, and again, some trial signups, a few people
Nice.
wanting to speak in the new year, which we're going to try and arrange. So yeah, it was that was fun. I enjoyed that. That was quite, yeah, it was a good buzz doing that.
Very cool. Very cool. So happy for you
Thank you.
that you got to that point and it's going well. And yeah, that's awesome.
It definitely feels like I'm on a different phase now. That everything up until end of last year, Decemberish, was kind of if not figuring it out, then kind of working out what exactly the product should be, what really works for people. And again, it's what people say they want versus what they're actually using and how they use it are very different, right? So saying, yeah, that's great, we want to use that, and then not using it, and you're like, but I thought you said use it, versus saying it would be good if it did this too, doing that, and then seeing it just like, the graph goes right in terms of people using it, and you're like, okay, that's not what you said, but fine, we'll roll with it. So it was fun. It's been an interesting few months, that's for sure.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you've made a lot of progress. You've gotten to this point, and and I totally get it. And now that you're gotten to this stage, it's a different ball game now. So now the focus must be growth. I'm assuming, right? It's growing your customer base basically, and try to move the needle up.
Right. I mean,
On that.
it's very clear now that the bit which is entirely lacking is explaining to people what this is. The
Yeah.
product now, I know, I can see. Again, it's a small sample size, but it's the fact that all of these people within this company said they didn't want this, right? They didn't want to use this. They wouldn't use it. And
Yeah.
they're using it and they're happy with it, and they've actually said, "Oh, actually, this is great." So I'm like, "Okay, this is good." But the problem I have now, or at least the thing I want to try to solve or improve, is just explaining to people A, what it is, B, why it's good for you, and see what the reward is for doing this. And just, right now it's terrible. I know that the landing page is hopeless. The onboarding it's not non-existent, but it's not what it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So the emphasis now for me is just really on that, less so on fiddling around with the product, because I know it does the things it needs to do, and of course there'll be features. There's always features.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe now is a good time to spend a little more time. Well, like you said, spending more time on those areas. So perhaps more marketing and more education kind of content. And have you considered establishing some kind of cycle where you work on a product for a certain period of time, and then you work only on marketing? Because I've been thinking about that. This is actually the first week that I'm trying that for reals, because I've been talking about doing that for months and I haven't really gotten into that cadence and found that rhythm, I guess. But this week is my first week that after I did that big update to Fusioncast, then I'm like, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to, now that I've pushed that, it's working, it's good. This week, I'm just going to focus on marketing and just communicating with people, answering emails, and, tweeting, and just focus on those things, the marketing website. So that kind of stuff. Have you thought about doing anything like that?
It would make sense if my time was a little bit more predictable. So I think the thing which, I've got, I'm working on too many things, especially with client work, which, always takes priority. It's just not quite as predictable as I'd like it to be in terms of allocating. I can definitely do this, and then next week I don't get time to do that. So it's like, well, do I just push that back? But at the same time, there's definitely I think a phased cadence that I want to get into, which is, okay, the next thing is, improving just how it's presented, how I speak about it. So it's landing page,
Mhm.
the priorities are landing page, welcome emails. I don't even have you get like an email which says, here's your account. Thanks for signing up. There's, I want to get into, again, education thing of like actually, talking them through the product, just the onboarding experience as a whole. So yeah, I've got a list of like 10 areas which desperately need looking at, and just the landing page is number one, just because it's the most visible and it's the one which will either convince people to try it or not, right? So yeah, there's definitely a phased approach. I'm not sure if saying like for the next 2 weeks I do this just works, because I might not even get a chance to touch it for 2 weeks, to be honest. So,
that makes sense.
But definitely a in and out of what actually I'm doing. That's for sure.
Yeah. It also sounds like you could use this customer that's adopting the product and they didn't want to do it before. Now they're doing it and they're being successful with it. What are those called, where you present kind of like what you did and how it impacted?
Oh, like a case study kind of thing.
Case study, yeah. That's
yes.
what I was trying to.
I think that's a good idea as well. Just because, okay, they're not necessarily a typical. Is there such a thing as a typical customer, right? But they're definitely the resistance and the realization and the reward is definitely something that could be presented as a case study. Yeah, definitely. I think that's worth considering.
Yeah, I should think about that and see if that would work for you.
Definitely worth thinking about. But yeah, I say it's been fun. So now it's all going a slightly different direction now. Just what I need to do. But yeah, it's all good progress.
Nice. That's awesome. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Happy for you and looking forward to seeing the product. I haven't logged on in a while, so I need to log in and kind of see.
The other thing that's come up as, and again, I think I did mention it maybe in the past, but it's starting to think about it a little bit more, which is at the moment, I've always focused on it being a team-based thing, right? It works best with, 10 people, or, there's companies like, I think there's 7 or 8 of them. But even for myself, it's useful as a solo thing, right? And I know the interface is really not in any way designed for that, but there's definitely a benefit from, again, there's kind of like there's the productivity app angle, which is very much almost like Pomodoro based, or very like prescripted task management, that is like, this is my to-do list and you check them off and things. But again, having just a things I did or how I was feeling, it's kind of like this quantitative self of not just how I was feeling, but what I got done. It's, I guess, like journaling or life logging or anything like that, but in a work context. And there's definitely a benefit from an individual's doing it. I don't know how that fits into the product right now, but I also don't want to ignore it, because it's completely maybe not focus on it right now, but I think there's an opportunity there just to make it work well as for an individual too in the future, just because, again, I'm using it as an individual and it's beneficial to me, so I'm sure others would benefit just in a slightly less formalized process, because again, I even Pomodoro doesn't work for me. It's kind of, I'll start it and then it's like, it'll just like, I just can't.
yeah
I'm not very good with that.
I don't think I've ever tried to really use that system, like Pomodoro or anything like that. But yeah,
I've
log on and
time blocking and things, and I work really well with lists, which is, I guess this is reflective on what DotPlan is, right? It's a reflection of how I organize my work, which is just, like, let me list things and let me get them done, but not necessarily strict, in a much more flexible way. So I guess your product is always going to be a reflection of yourself, right? When it's a solo based project, right? I guess with teams that gets watered down somewhat. It'll still be, somebody's a reflection of an amalgamation of a few, but
yeah.
So what about Fusioncast? There's big changes here as well, so lots of improvements.
Yeah, lots of improvements in the latest version. Been busy working on trying to make it better, and trying to get to the point where I feel really comfortable with letting it go and opening it up. I know we talked about that before, and I shared with you before I wanted to freeze all feature development and then move on
Yeah,
and do this and that.
I seem to
But
remember that.
yeah, right. You're wondering, well, what happened? No, so just things kept coming up, and
You mentioned in your changelog that you like. By the way, that's great. That changelog. I really need to do the same thing. Actually, I got a subscription to what's the app? It's the thing which lets me do like notification based like widget in the thing for like changelog stuff. So yeah, I keep meaning to do that. But yeah, you mentioned you like improved the stability and of the recording system and stuff like that. So again, I guess that's the key now is that you want it to be bulletproof, right?
Yeah, well, of course, nothing is 100% bulletproof, but as close as I can get to that is my goal because of the nature of the product.
Sure.
Recording, I see it as a mission critical kind of thing, even though, lives are not depending on it, but just the nature of recording, and I want it to be as bulletproof as I can possibly make it.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want is someone to like, hold on, I just did this interview and you didn't give me anything. You lost it all, right?
Yeah, exactly. That wouldn't be good at all. So that's the one thing that kept me from moving forward and feeling confident, releasing it to more people and making it available to more people. So I really spent a lot of time trying to think about how I could engineer this thing in a way that could be more reliable. And I finally came up with something, and it seems to be working, but it required me to rewrite pretty large portions of the recording engine. Not so much changing what was already there, but it was more about expanding what I already had and kind of fitting what I already had with this new approach. And so I was able to get it to work, and it seems to be working really well. I still need to see how it's going to perform, if it's going to scale properly, Um, but right now it seems to be working just fine. And it achieved the goal of making recordings more reliable. So now, even if the user closes the browser in the middle of recording or refreshes the page, it'll still finish properly, and nothing will be lost.
I mean, I
So
think that's the bit which I think from everything the product, everything else about it is just like fantastic. I think that you've got a fantastic product here. That was the bit which it's like, hold on, I can't use this browser now because it crashed last time. It's like we just might as well throw away the browser. So yeah, making sure that is just, as you say, just super solid.
yeah,
is everything. And if you've got that solved, then I think you're in a very good position. Just because again, I mean, something that's again, you have a major advantage to me in terms of what your product is that people get it so quickly, right? It's like you can record podcasts, you get double-ended audio, you're good.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know what that is. I've got to effectively go through this like education process, like explaining what on earth this thing is, which I guess you saw I released this little digital business card app thing.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
We'll talk about that later. But
Speed, right?
Link speed. Yeah. So linkspeed.io. And again, I wrote it ages ago, and I spent literally a week just like in the evenings going, I should just release this, right? Because it's there and it's done and I'm using it, and people that I've shown it to actually liked it, so I should just release it. So I spent it was like 5 days just tidying it up and launching it. And the fact that requires literally zero, I mean, you can show them a picture and everybody goes, all right, I know what that is. And it's like, it's such a different thing, right? Because you literally don't have to explain anything at all. And
they totally get it right away.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, yeah, what was I thinking?
How's that going, by the way? Have you gotten subscribers?
Well, yeah, there's like 50, 60 people using it.
Nice.
And I literally tweeted about it once, and I see hits coming in quite regularly of new signups and things. I'm like, all right, well, I didn't do anything yet. So I want to revisit it. Yeah, especially since, again, it is bare bones, completely bare bones right now in terms of you can add links and social links. I just, pre-added 10 defaults or something like Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And so if I definitely there's something there. Just the fact that it was so, yeah, people seem to like it, and I've got some really good responses from it. And also, it's an interesting experiment for me in terms of live view, because it's another Phoenix live view app, and
Yeah.
it's been interesting seeing its performance and its characteristics when it's the most heavily, I don't say heavily, but the most trafficked app, live view app I've got running at the moment. Like DotPlan has a very, right now, predictable usage pattern just because of the people that are using it. Whereas this is, both the visits coming in from wherever and the people that are randomly signing up. It's just like give me an insight into just, what kind of things to expect from it and what slows it down and what doesn't, because live view is a very different way of making an app work from something like Rails. So just seeing how to improve or how to optimize that is a good lesson for DotPlan and everything else. So I'm I'm tempted to experiment with it a bit more. And plus, because it's not my intent, or at least it hasn't been my intention to make it into a product for money, although hey, if it can get traffic, then maybe there's an opportunity there.
So you're not charging for that
No,
service
it's completely
right
free.
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's the other thing as well. It's running on a free. It's running on Fly.io's minimum viable server platform, as in it's using their Postgres service, which means I have to pay for storage, because normally you lose it on reboot, right? Whereas their Postgres service has I want to allocate 10 gig to this, so you actually have to pay something for the storage. So I've got the literally minimum of that, and then everything else is just on the minimum free things, which is a 256 megabyte memory shared instance, and free everything else. And so it's costing me $2.15 a month or something. So, but seeing that people are like, oh my god, it's really fast, and I'm like, it's like literally on the bare minimum. So again, it's just really interesting getting some performance data and getting some experience of how live view performs in the field.
Yeah, well, no, it's perfect though. It's a great match because it doesn't require a lot of what the app is about. It doesn't require a whole lot of stuff, right? It's just mainly some fields, some text fields, and maybe an image here and there, and links, and that's it. And so that's perfect.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It's minimum maintenance, and minimum. It doesn't require external services. It's not got APIs to rely on. It doesn't store a lot of data. As you said, it stores some images that are recompressed and rescaled. So you're talking about a few K here and there on S3. So it's very low maintenance and no fuss. So it's an interesting thing that I can use as an experiment, which was my primary thought process for making it public, right? I did toy with the idea of just open sourcing the whole thing, which is still a potential, just because there isn't one of the great things about when Rails really started to take off. I started using Rails before there was anything on Rails, so I kind of went through the pain of trying to figure out. Everything was always at the edge, right? Because no one had done this before, and there's no shared code anywhere. And that's how I ended up writing the book, right? Because I was one of the first to go, the first few 100,000s, whatever, to go down these paths. So actually, just going through the process of making the book, and I found that I just really enjoyed it, and it's just really interesting. So I've been toying with the idea of, okay, do something similar with Phoenix and LiveView. Not necessarily that I have more knowledge of it than anybody else, but there isn't enough shared. Everybody gains the more public code there is, right? So I'm tempted to just either release it or do mini snippets of like, how did I do this? How did I in this in LiveView? How? And the thing is, that there are things which I've not found in any live view app, and it's surprising just how many things you go, well, I can't find any reference as to how to do this, so I better figure it out. I mean, even just simple stuff like there's linked QR code to share your thing or to download and stick on a card or something, and it's like, okay, I can find QR code libraries, and I've got a web app. How do I do that? So how do I get that to appear in the app, generated and included in the page? So it's something simple, but and it could be a simple blog post or a video or something. So I've been toying with what's the the best way I can give people value from the stuff I've figured out for this. So I'm still trying to.
Totally. If you're not gonna turn it into a paid product, that would be a great way to repurpose that project and turn it into a book or how I built this. Just like you said,
Yeah,
walk through the
I've been
process.
trying to talk myself into making some videos on it, just because it's probably the quickest way to do it. As in, if I talk through, how did I do this? It's probably a 10-minute video, and it could potentially be not too much work, famous last words, right? For me to talk through it for 10 minutes. But I know a lot of people don't like video-based development content, but I know a lot of people do. So it could be a good starting point anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you say that about if you're not going to monetize it, but one of the most interesting resources for figuring out how people have done stuff in Phoenix, they're not using LiveView, but just in Phoenix and Elixir anyway, is plausible.io, which is a Google Analytics alternative, which is privacy focused Google Analytics alternative that is a paid product. They're doing really well. It's like two founders based in the UK, and that is completely open source, and they're doing very well financially. And the reason for that is people found out about it because they open sourced it. So I think there's a potential path there that is like by talking about the code and sharing the code, most people really don't want to set up a server to run an analytics server. Really? Do you want to do that? No, you don't want to do that. So, but at the same time, knowing how they're doing it and referencing that is interesting, right? So, and it's useful to people learning Phoenix. So I think there's something similar there. It's in like, yeah, sure. I mean, again, what the app does isn't rocket science. It's just putting some form fields on a page. It's just convenient, right? So there's a similar argument to be made. So if someone wanted to make link speed, it's a weekend at most, right? For what it does right now. The analytics are interesting as well because it records like page views and page clicks and stuff as well. But do you really want to? Most people don't want to host it. So there's a potential path there. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I have an idea for a little product that came about as I've been working on Fusioncast, but I'm not ready to share it publicly. Okay. So I'll talk to you about it after we hang up.
So what's your next plan with Fusioncast?
So my goal is to go to market as soon as I can. Now I feel more confident about it. There's one more thing that I need to do though before that, and it has to do with infrastructure. So I need to strengthen part of the infrastructure. Right now I only have one server running, sitting between.
It's not quite a free 256 megabyte instance though, is it, right?
Yeah, and no, it's a little better than that.
I should beef that up, I guess.
Yeah. But it's only one server, so I need to have at least another one behind a load balancer to have some kind of redundancy. I mean, I know. I don't really, but again, given the nature of the product with the recording, I don't want that to be, that's a point of failure right there. There's no redundancy. So I want to add another server just to have some redundancy there. And I'll be working on that pretty soon. But meanwhile...
So what are you using for database? Are you using DigitalOcean's hosted database stuff? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Hosted and managed database.
Seriously, managed databases. Never again. Oh, I there's war stories I could tell you about Postgres. I love Postgres, but there was a thing. Yeah, I'm traumatized through that.
We can turn that into another episode
seriously.
At some point.
Yeah, I pay other people to look after my database now.
Right? Yeah, that's the way to do it. And they do a replication too. So backups and stuff. So it's taken care of, and I don't have to worry about that.
Cool. So basically, the server would literally, and plus you're saving the chunks of the recording to S3, right? So the servers, in theory, can just be identical, but whoever's processing the data just takes over that, and the other one doesn't, right? So.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So I need to do that, but I mean that I don't expect that to be a major hurdle. Famous last words again. But
like myself every time I say, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the goal, to get that going. But like I mentioned before, I'm trying to do cycle. So this week, I'm not even doing anything about that. I'm just
Awesome.
focusing on things that have to do with marketing and promoting the product. So I got a few more people signed up for private beta. I'm not doing onboarding anymore,
Okay. Oh, cool. Right. Good.
one-on-one onboarding, but I have brought on a few more people. And now there is a very simple, but I think useful onboarding thing that I added to Fusioncast for the very first login. Users see kind of like a guided
Oh, nice.
thing where, each screen tells them what they can do
Are
and
you
what to do
using
next.
any library service for that, or are you just doing it yourself?
Nope.
Cool.
Nope.
Okay.
It's very bare bones, very simple.
Cool. Yeah.
Just a
That's, yeah.
little alert at the top of the
Nice.
page
Yep.
of each screen.
Cool.
And based on what screen it is, it kind of guides them, tells them what's
Nice.
going on.
Cool. Okay.
So hopefully that'll help to get people up and running quickly. So yeah, that's the goal, really. Just do a little bit of marketing, do a little bit of infrastructure. And then in between that, I'm going to be working on the billing system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I went with Paddle, which I overcomplicated it a little bit just by having multiple plans is fine, but it's also just things get more complicated, especially when you have like annual price and then a monthly price, which means you have two different subscriptions. Then I've got three subscription levels, and each one's got monthly or annual billing. So I've got 6 subscription levels, and it's just like, oh god, got to keep track of this.
Yeah.
And then you've got trials which are done internal to the product, and it's surprising just how much fiddly it is, right? It's like, oh, I'll just bill for it, and then it's like, oh god, can I just not?
Yeah.
Pain.
Yeah, so that's part of the plan for now. Figure out pricing, the billing integration, and
I mean, you're close. You're so close now. Just because, again, it's if you've got the stability aspect sorted, then it's ready to go, right? Just to say, apart from these little things, because it is a really good product. I mean, it's so clean, it's so intuitive, and it looks great, and it just works really well. So
Thank you. I got some good feedback from one of the recent people that I brought on board, and they said it was a really nice looking app, and also got some feedback of some little things that I need to change here and there. Nothing major.
You said about price plans. What's your current thinking regarding pricing strategy?
So I'm thinking, and this is what I've been thinking all along, based on the nature of the product, something like usage-based pricing would be good, but I don't want to get into the business of nickel and diming people and having to count everything. So it makes the product more complicated, right?
Yeah,
Having
seriously.
to keep track of all this stuff. So I don't want to get into that. So basically what I'm thinking is coming up with like 3 different tiers that give users the ability to use the product at the level that they need. Right. So kind of like X number of minutes per month of recording time per month with all features. You get all the features. Right. It's just really the price difference is based on the amount of time.
Something like, an hour of storage per month, or like, 5 hours or 10 hours kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So something like that. I don't really have the numbers yet, but that's what I'm thinking. 3 tiers, low, medium, and
I did
higher.
And so I had I do something similar exactly with DotPlan, right? I took again, having been in teams where you say, can we just add so and so, and they're like, it's another $7 a month, and you're like, so what? But people get is that person using it? Can we take them off it and add that person? And it really surprised me just how fussy people get over $9 a month extra for a team member, which again, as an employee or as a team member, you're like, oh, come on, for all of the other costs, there's nothing. But people do get really fussy about it, especially if it suddenly takes them over like something they can put on an expense credit card versus getting HR involved and getting something signed off. So I took the stance of like, okay, I'll just do 3 tiers, effectively 10 up to 10 people, up to 20 people, or unlimited, thinking, well, right now everyone's just going to go for the 10 because that's the people I'm speaking to and that's the customers I expect right now. But funnily enough, even it's cheap, $50 something a month, I can't remember.
Okay.
And so this first client is like, but there's only 7 of us using it, but we're paying for 10. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. So even when you go for the, like, I'll just charge 1 so you don't have to worry about it. It's like, yeah, but we don't need 10. We only need 7. Yeah, but do you... Okay, fine. So you can't win.
Yeah. Interesting. The other thing that I've been thinking about introducing or making part of the pricing structure is this idea of file retention, which I wanted to see what your thoughts are on that. So because storage, if it just everything stays there and continues to pile up, cost continues to go up. So I'm trying to think ways of managing that in a better way. And this file retention period that would be part of each tier, you know, the lowest tier, maybe like 90-day file retention or something like that. And a year and then 2 years or, you know, something like that, where there's some kind of limit that the files need to come down, you know,
just because
I
mean, the
purged.
The storage is okay. It's not massive, but it's not zero either. And as you said, it will add up, especially when most people aren't going to need it, right? You know, they're going to be recording it. They're going to download it pretty much immediately afterwards, a few weeks at most, right?
Exactly.
I think that's completely fair. Yeah.
Right? Because they're going to publish the audio. They're going to, you know, do whatever they need to do with it after it's recorded. So it doesn't really need to be sitting there on Fusioncast systems forever, right?
Stick it in Dropbox if you want to, you know, keep it shared with other people or things like that. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think twice about that. And I think 90 days is for most people is going to be more than plenty, right? Just because, as you said, you know, it's if you've just recorded it, then you're going to want to download it, if not immediately, then very soon. I can see the, you know, sharing, you know, if you have an editor, they need to go in and download it and edit it. That might take, you know, even a few weeks, but I think 90 days is plenty. I wouldn't.
Right. So I'm thinking maybe it would be 90 days and then 6 months and then a year.
Right.
You know,
that sounds very fair.
Yeah. So hopefully I don't get pushback about that, or, you know, well,
I mean, people know storage isn't free, right?
Right.
And you're charging for the recording. You're not becoming, you know, file storage system. That's your feature. That's what it's about. Yeah. I mean, you. I don't know if you have I can't remember the interface. Do you have recordings effectively get archived? I mean, you could just show it in the history. It's like, you know, this has effectively been archived, right? It's the recording is grayed out, and it's like, just as long as there's notifications, you know, send them an email, you know, a week before it's going to get, or 2 weeks before it's going to get removed, and say,
exactly. They would need to be notified ahead of time, and you know, that way they can do whatever they need to do in case they need to download them. But so yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Because again, you don't want to. It just because it's an incremental cost, right? Every recording they do just adds to that baseline cost, and you don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. That makes me feel good about, you know.
Let's put it this way: I wouldn't expect you to. If I was using it, I wouldn't expect you to keep it indefinitely. Just it's like, why would you?
We're not a file storage service. We're a recording service. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think as long as the limits are sensible and not, you know, like, God, you have like 4 days to download it. It's absolutely fine, and I wouldn't expect any pushback from that at all.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Famous last words as well.
I know, right?
I'm not great at predicting what people will say, but I can't see an issue in that case.
So yeah, I think that's it on my end. We'll see how it goes.
So are we going to get back into publishing these? I think.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we need to release them. Well, actually, in one way, this is interesting because how many have we got like in the buffer queue? Because we can probably.
There was one more.
Really?
One more.
Okay. Is there any more to edit? I can't remember.
Yes, there's more to edit, which I need to get back on.
I mean, I think it's interesting also because I think. The potential for what we're discussing is, I think, changing as well, because we're both in a position where I'm in effectively a post-launch and what the hell do I do now position. You're hopefully about to do the same thing. So definitely, I think there's a chance to kind of target what we're discussing slightly different on a weekly basis too, right? Because the thing isn't
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, what should I do with this feature, or where should this button go? It's a bit more like, okay, what kind of challenges am I having right now? And it's
Yeah.
less about what I got done and more about, like, I guess, strategizing or something.
Right. Yeah.
Potentially,
Yeah.
anyway.
The challenges will slowly morph into
Mhm.
something else, a little bit of the usual, but a little more of new, different kinds of challenges. So yeah,
No,
totally.
I'd be all over that. Yeah, I'm happy to. It would be nice to get into both catch up with, because I also feel a bit weird that like we're publishing something we spoke about 6 months ago.
I
It'd
know.
been. I mean, I guess that's one way we can kind of catch up somehow. Don't know how.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend more time this week editing, so we'll see how far I can get,
You're
and
using
then
Descript now,
on the
right?
weekend as well.
You're
I'm
using
sorry.
you're using Descript now, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I am.
If there's anything I can do, again, just let me know if you want me to have a go at one, or if you just, again, once you've done it, just I'll look into Transistor. I think that's on me. The last one didn't get published. Yeah, we got bad.
No worries, no worries.
We were bad.
Um,
I think we're both bad.
yeah, we both dropped the ball on getting this going, but no worries. We'll get back to it, and yeah,
No,
we'll
because I
yeah.
mean, again, I think it's really beneficial for me, and I hope it is for you, and I hope
Oh
somebody
yeah, for
somewhere
sure.
gets something from it. Just because I think again, this um, just saying these things out loud makes a difference, and I don't know if other people find that true too. But a lot of the time, you're going through this stuff internally, and you think you've got it sussed out, and then you explain
Yeah.
it, and then you're like, no, I didn't.
Yep.
So it's
Oh,
definitely helpful, and as I hope it is for you too.
for sure. Yeah, it's super helpful for me too. I enjoy having our conversations and it's super helpful. Otherwise, I don't really, other than the communities that we belong to, that where we, interact with and ask questions or whatever, or learn from others as
Mhm.
well. But it's something about actually saying things out loud and talking and bouncing ideas or,
Mm.
even just experiences of what we've been working on is super useful.
Nice one.
Cool. All right. So, should we wrap it up here?
I guess so.
And
Sounds good.
all right, Alan. We'll meet again in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, man.